This following review is brought to you by BigBadToyStore.com. If you like what you see in the video, please check out the link in the description below. Alright, so here's the video review for the D-Arts Mewtwo. Made by Bandai and Tamashii Nations. Not sure what the Show Pro thing is, if you guys can pick that up down there. But just first off, this box is amazing looking. The design is really nice. The colors, the images, everything, all the way around, it's just great. The cool thing about it that I noticed, and they don't do this with a lot of the D-Arts or Figuarts figures, is that they threw in the holographic I guess accents around the box. We got some on the side. There's a Mewtwo down there who's holographic. And is there any other spots? Oh, there's a Mewtwo over here, and it says Pokemon Mewtwo in holographic also. And then, of course, this little sticker here, but I'll get to that in a second. The top is pretty much plain. There's a window and the same design all around the box, except for this Mewtwo silhouette is in an action pose. Looks like he's ready to either launch his Shadow Ball or punch somebody. I don't know. But you got D-Arts on the side here, Mewtwo, Pokemon, D-Arts, and then all the licensing down here for Nintendo. If you ever notice that when there's a licensed Pokemon product, there's like 50 different names. They got Nintendo, Creatures, Game Freak, TV Tokyo, Show Pro. I mean, that all that is I'm guessing after TV Tokyo is all, you know, relative to the toy. I'm not sure if it all has to do with Pokemon itself, but I noticed that on a couple of things. As you can see, this is a pretty big box. I want to say it's about 4 inches thick, and I don't know, like 8 inches tall, something around there. But what you see is pretty much how I see this also. The box is really nice, yes, and the only way I would suggest displaying him in the box is if you had two. I mean, why are you buying an articulated figure if you're not going to take it out of the box? I just think that's kind of silly to, you know, buy something that has all these points of articulation that you can pose and comes with stands and accessories and stuff, and then you're going to leave it in the box. Though the box is beautiful, but there's not really much display possibility with him in the box because he sits so far back that it shadows him. All you can really pick up is the waist down. So there's that. We'll look at the back really quick before I make one other note. You can see that you can get him in a couple of different poses. Of course, you could do more than this, but this is just a sample. And it comes with a stand. It comes with the effect here, which I don't know what they were going for with this effect. I see that it resembles a Shadow Ball, but it's not the right color in my opinion. I mean, it could be his other attack, like the Psy Strike or whatever that he's known for, but there's nothing to tell you that that's what it specifically is. And here they show he's got a hose that goes in the back of his head, and I'll get to that later also. But pretty much what it's saying here, even though I can't read Japanese, is that he has the hose and you can still lift the head up. And I'll demonstrate that later. But this is the first release bonus that comes with Mewtwo, or Mew, I'm sorry. It comes with Mewtwo, but the bonus comes with Mew. And you can see by, I guess, this sticker. I don't know if the second release or whatever release where it's just him is going to have the same box, and they're just going to take the Mew out of it and the sticker off. I don't know. I haven't heard anything. Okay, so one thing I wanted to note that I forgot when we were on the back of this box, and we're already, what, 5 minutes in, is that the color on him here is way different than the color on him here. Now, I don't know if you could pick it up inside the box, but you will see it when it comes out, that he is a pinkish color. He's got a lot of paint on him, and his tail thing that's usually purple is like a soft maroon. I'm guessing they went for the movie look. I don't really know, but I would have preferred to have him, you know, white and then with accents of paint here and there, and the I want it like, you know, a deeper purple for the tail like he has here. I think he looks great. And also the eyes are very different. These eyes are darker, these eyes on the figure are lighter. So let's get this guy open and you guys can see what he looks like. Alright, right out of the box he has a couple of layers to his clamshell here. I believe it's like 4 or something like that to, you know, hold all the accessories that are in there. But he does have this kind of neat little backdrop in the back of him, which would sit, you know, back here, that you can take out if you want to. It says Mewtwo, obviously, in a spiral shape. And this is like a reddish pink color, if the camera's not picking it up. So there's that, and an instruction sheet on how to put together the stand and place the figures on the stands and interchange the hand and attach the effect to the hand. Pretty simple. You don't need to know Japanese to see that. Okay, so I'm gonna take this clamshell out. So the first, well, I want to call this the first, even though it's in the back, but first thing you see is this. Open up the clamshell, and it's a pretty big Pokeball stand. All of it's translucent except for the black detail. Some stuff on the bottom. And then here's the stand pieces. I guess we'll go ahead and put this together really quick. And if you've bought a big enough Figuarts or a D-Arts figure before that usually include these stands, you know what you're doing. Oh, that was a separate piece right there. I didn't realize that. Alright, so that's the claw one. And this is the straight one that would go with Mew. Ah, I see. Okay, so first I'll just put these in. If I can get it off the... There we go. So these just plug in. Very simple. Plug in right there. Like that. Okay. Now, from what I thought... Oops. I thought there was 2 holes so you can display both of the figures. Let's look at the instructions. Yeah, there are. Where's the other one? That is very strange. So these are not holes unless I can take those plugs out. Oh yeah, you can. Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that's what that was. It's a plug, so you might run into this problem too, where it plugs up the holes if you're not using the stands. That is really cool. I was not expecting that. And you can do it on all sides, I believe. So that's what that looks like. We're going to just set that aside for now and move the trash out of the way. And we're going to open this up. It kind of falls right out, so you might want to be careful. Set the tray aside. And before we look at Mewtwo, we will look at these accessories. There's some tape. I'm just going to do that for now because I don't have anything close to me to cut that tape. And here's the little bonus. This is the Mew that you get with a little, you know, the pre-order. That's what they're saying as of now. I don't know if that's 100% true, but that's what, you know, that's what the rumor is. So Mew has a little hole in the bottom. It plugs right into this huge clear stand compared to him. And it's a little tight. I'm guessing just because this is rubbery plastic. And they probably wanted it to fit well. So I'll zoom in so you guys can see him. And he's not quite in focus, but you can kind of see him. Let me see if I can move the camera back. No, maybe it's moving forward. Okay. You'll see him a little bit more later on. Okay, so here is the effect. I believe it is the shadow ball, but it is kind of too light to really resemble a shadow ball. And then here's his hand that holds the effect itself. And I mean, I'll go over the articulation on the figure itself, but here's the hand and you can move the fingers around. Now there's a port on the underside, kind of where there's no effect or no pieces coming off. There's a little hole right there, and you might have to move the fingers around. Oh, fingers do come out too because they're on ball joints. This finger's not moving. Okay, I don't want to force that one to move, but we'll try plugging this guy in. So that's pretty much what it would look like. I'm sure I can plug that in even more, and then it would look like that. I'll probably mess with this a little bit later after the figure is after I go over the figure, and I'll show you guys what this looks like with him. But there's the general idea. Alright, now let's get to Mewtwo himself. Okay, so here's Mewtwo. Still in his tray, kind of. He just fell out of it. But he's pretty much just sitting in the tray, so you may have trouble with him, you know, falling right out. It's not a big deal. It's just a tray. And here is a guard for his tail. And if you're wondering why that's there, it's just because they put the accessory tray on top of it, and I guess they just didn't want to scratch up the paint. I don't know. I like that a lot of companies do that, like a lot of import companies and stuff like that. They just throw in the extra thing to make sure that your figure is nice. So I'm going to adjust the camera just a little bit so we can get a better look at him. And immediately right out of the package, he's really cool looking. Probably the Mewtwo toy that all the kids would want, you know, back in the day. This would have been amazing to have something like this. But he does have a few things here and there that bug me. Just being a high-end figure, there's a few things that bug me, but for the most part, he's really neat. And we'll go over that just now. So first, I'll back this up a little bit just so that we can stay in focus. And I can move him, you know, forward and back. So, first thing I want to point out is his sculpt. And everything on him is pretty much proportioned right. His tail looks good. And the body, I was worried about how they were going to pull off his lower section. Everything looks pretty neat. The face sculpt itself, it's Mewtwo. I want to say, yes, you know, this is a Mewtwo face, but he kind of looks sad. I don't know if you guys are getting that too, but he looks like he's about to cry. From the side, he looks a lot different than he does from the front. And I know a lot of figures tend to be like that. Like, they look really good from the side, but when you see them spot on, they look kind of funny. Now, that could be me just, you know, nitpicking or whatever, but it was just something I wanted to point out, is that he's just got a sad face, in my opinion. Alright. Now, if you guys remember what I was saying before about the colors, like the colors on his box and the colors on him. Now, he's picking up very white on the camera, but if I can get the box in here, you can clearly see that there's a difference in colors. And like I said, it's the lighting in here that might not do the colors on him justice, but you can tell that that is not the same color as that. And this, I know, is a camera, but I could tell the difference between white and pink. He's very pinkish. I think what they did was they painted him white and then went over with a crazy pink, purpley reddish wash, or maybe an airbrush, and just put on too much. I would prefer him to be very white, but he's not. Also, around the eyes here, he has black outlining. There's no black outlining around the eyes, which I wish they would have done, because here it looks great. Maybe this is why he looks sad, is because he doesn't have those. And his eyes are dark purple as opposed to the purple that's like right here. I would have loved for him to have the darker purple tail and the darker purple eyes, but you know, it is what it is, and not really much I can complain about. You know, I bought it. But I was just kind of trying to show you guys the comparison. And this is the pre-order pictures, so this is what you see, but this is what you get. So if you guys are nitpicky and want him to be like this color, then I would stay away from it, but otherwise, you know, pick it up because it's nice. So, I don't know if you've already caught on, but I think that they were going for the movie Mewtwo. That's just my opinion. I don't know if that's a fact, if they really went with movie Mewtwo as their design, but that's what I thought. Okay, so now I guess I'll go over the articulation, and some of it is kind of tricky, so just be careful. I suggest you take your time with your figure if you've got it or haven't gotten it yet, and just make sure you don't overdo it, because you might break something. These figures are meant to be collectible and just posed, not severely played with. So I guess we'll start up at the head. He has 2 joints in his head. He's got one that goes from the neck up into the actual head, and then the neck is on a separate ball joint. And you can get him in that flying pose that you've seen. What you would have to do is this is what I did when I first was messing around with him. You have to actually get this hose, which is a flexible plastic, and you have to either pull it out of his head or push it in, because of the amount of paint that they put on this. It was stuck in mine. I don't know if it's going to be like that in yours. I know that some people have had that problem, and they didn't know that the head can go all the way up. So what happens here is you can have him look down as far as articulation, and you're not always going to get this gap. What you would have to do to get rid of that gap is hold this neck joint steady and move this one, because the way this goes up into the head, it's on such a tight joint, and I think because of the paint, it tends to stick. And if you're going to move the head, you might break the ball joint that's in here, and you don't want to do that. So this is what I do. I move, if I want to have them look down or whatever, I'm going to move that joint first and then the neck. I'm not going to rely on the neck. So I don't know if you've been paying attention to this thing, but it goes in and out. You can pull it all the way out if you want to. And he looks up pretty far. I'll show you guys that now. So I'm going to work on that head joint first. And then in order to get the head to go up without pushing back down, is you put the hose inside the head. So he can look up all the way, pretty much 90 degrees, as if he's flying. And if you were watching before, I'll just do it again. He can look down almost 90 degrees too. So a lot of motion in him. He can, of course, do a 360 if you wanted him to, but you'd have to take the hose out. So a lot of head movement in this figure, and I love that. All right, going down, we're going to go to the shoulders, and the shoulders are very difficult because they're on such a small ball joint that I suggest trying to get in there with your fingers like this and moving the joint, because if you can't tell already, there's a gap there. And I've heard of these arms popping off, and my thing is, I'm not going to try and pop it off. If it pops off on its own, that's one thing. I'm not going to be curious and say, hey, I heard this pops off. No, I'm not gonna do that. So for me, I'm just gonna do this. And if you want to get them in an arms raised pose, what you have to do is you have to take the joint here, which is also tight like the head, because again, I think it's the paint. I don't know if that's what they did, but I believe it's the paint that they used. So you would have to take the joint and turn it completely around, because it's facing down right now, and you would lift it up above his head. I'm not going to do that because it's very tight. You can hear it squeaking. So just for the sake of the review, I'm not going to do that, just to save some time. So he's got a bicep swivel, both sides, and both of them are very loose like this. That might be a good thing too, when moving this arm, just so you don't break it. Double jointed elbows, just like most Figuarts and D-Arts figures. He's got a ball joint going into the hand, a little tiny one, so you can get him in, your average movement. And he's got, swivel, and then he's got these little tiny ball jointed fingers. And I know that they pop off. I've heard of them popping off. I haven't had any trouble with mine yet, just because I guess I haven't really forced him into any specific poses with his hands. So just be aware of that. They're small and they can come off, but they're they're in there. They move and they stay. They're not loose. So same thing for both sides. Then you got this chest joint where it's not a ball joint, so be careful what you do with this. I don't know if the camera's going to pick it up, but I noticed it inside this crevice here that it's actually on a hinge, and this hinge goes front and back, and you can go side to side with it. I think the top part is the hinge and the bottom part is a ball, if that makes sense. So I don't really know. So you want to be careful not to pull it apart just in case. He does have a waist joint, and again, I think it's the paint, but it's very tight. You can get side to side if you really wanted to. It's not necessary because there's no detail. He doesn't have any abs, so you could turn him like this and it looks fine. All right. Now, this is the part that impressed me a lot. I wanted to see how they can pull off the legs. And of course they did the average Tamashii thing. You know, they drop down the joint so that you can get the legs in all kinds of positions. So you can get his legs to go out like that. That's about as far as you can get him to do a split. If you really, you know, if you really want it to have Mewtwo do a split, that's as far as you can get it. And then he does have 360 in his legs. You can see the ball joint in there. If you really wanted to spin them all the way around, I'm not going to do that because I don't want to bother. He does have the backwards knee, you know, kangaroo kind of looking joint that can go forward and back about that much. That's all you really need. If it went back any further than that, it would be very unnatural. Not that he is a natural creature, but you can imagine. And then it goes down about that far. So it's a good range of movement with plenty of movement. And then it can 360 if you want it to. And he has this toe joint. One thing I don't really understand is why they gave him toes that are connected. Maybe to save on money. I don't know. They could have given him toes that spread apart, and that would have given him a better stance. Even flat feet, because his feet are rounded on the bottom. But that's no big deal. Now, the most impressive piece of articulation on all of him is his tail. Plenty of points of articulation here. So for those of you who love your articulation, here you go. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 points of articulation in his tail. I think that's what I count it. But they also connect at each end. So he can, I know there's an ugly gap in here, and I'm pretty sure they would want to hide that, but you wouldn't have been able to get, you know, his tail to come around. And besides, who's looking at him from the back when you have him like this? So the tail can go about that far towards him, and that pretty much goes for under and over. So I know you've seen him pose with his tail like this, and he's flying, or he's hovering or whatever, doing some Pokemon stuff. But that's as far as it can go. Like I said, it does have good side to side, which is nice. And I think this point moves too, but it, like I said, with paint, again, paint is the big issue on him. He has tons of paint on him. It's like caked on him. And at the end, this is hard plastic. I don't know if anybody was wondering if it was rubber or whatever, but it's hard, and you can, you know, keep it in the position that you want. Alright, so I believe I went over all of the articulation. And you can bring in the stand. We can bring in the stand now if we want. And sit him on here with Mew. And that way you can kind of get an idea of how big he is compared to Mew. I rarely use stands, to be honest. But with him, you might need to, because in order to get him to stand, you have to rest him on his tail. If you want me to try and get him to stand on his own, I probably can't, especially not on the desk. Maybe on a different surface, but since this is very smooth, I'm not going to be able to. So I'm going to figure out a way Yeah, there we go. We'll do that. I'll just put it around his waist for now and get him in like a little bit of an action pose. Nothing too fancy. There you go. So that's pretty much him on the stand. The clamp is very loose. You can probably tighten that up with some super glue or Mod Podge. You'd be fine, but that's just to get the general idea of what he would look like with the base, the Pokeball base, and then him next to Mew. So you can tell Mew is very, very tiny, and I don't think that's accurate. I think he was a little bit bigger than this, but hey, it's baby Mew, whatever. And I guess I can show you guys now, since I have this set up already in the hand. And this is in here. Oh, well, maybe not. I don't know. It looked like it was in there. I'm gonna have to mess around with this a little bit more just to kind of get the idea of how to use it. Maybe we can do that. Yeah, that looks better. So he's got one finger, or maybe that's his thumb, in front of the in front of it, and then two in the back. So that looks pretty cool. And we'll switch out this hand. It can go on either hand, I believe. It looks like it's a universal hand. So we'll put it on here. It's kind of loose. That's weird. This hand is very different than that hand. No, just pretend like he's getting ready to use Shadow Ball or whatever. Alright, so we went over almost everything on here and got the general idea of what this Mewtwo is. Now, in case you're wondering, does he fit in with other figures? You might be wanting to do Super Smash Brothers displays or crossover pictures or whatever with other figures. So I'm going to kind of get him standing in a way that kind of looks like he's almost up straight. But like I said, you can't really get him to stand on his own. So we're going to bring in a Figuarts figure here. We got Forze. And you can see Forze is taller than him, which is about right. And then we got your standard 6-inch Marvel Legends action figure here. We got a Spider-Man, first appearance, which doesn't want to stay standing, but we'll try. There we go. So you can see he's a lot bigger, which, you know, that looks good together. And then we have a D-Arts Mega Man here, which is from the same line that he's from. Mega Man is very small, but there's that. And just for sake of Super Smash Brothers, and I don't have Link, I'm sorry, and I don't have Samus, which I'm also sorry about, which I wish I did, but we got a little Sonic here. And I'm not sure if I want to use this Sonic for a Super Smash Brothers display or not, but there he is with Sonic. Alright guys, I believe I went over everything except for one thing, his problems. I'll do that really quickly, otherwise there's not much left of the video. So if you're satisfied with what you've seen, then, you know, that's that. But I've mentioned it already throughout the video, these things. I don't know what's up with the gaps. I'm guessing just it might be a safety feature so you don't break the arm off. The heavy coat of paint that they could have completely ignored. The color, which is off. The lack of paint apps. And his feet, I mean, I can let the whole, you know, individual toe articulation go, but I wish that they would have made the feet flat so that he can stand a little bit better, maybe. Another thing that I didn't talk about, which I think should have been something that they should have tried to do, maybe, you know, editing the hands a little bit, or maybe giving us extra hands, is he can't make a fist. He can't close his hands. That's as far as you can get. It looks kind of funny. I know I've seen plenty of pictures where his hands are closed. So, if I can say that I would want anything extra with this figure, because he does come with some cool stuff, is I wish that he had an alternate head or face, just so that he doesn't have this same expression. And I've seen him yelling, you know, with his mouth open. And also, I don't know if you remember from the movie, but his eyes do change, I think, blue at some point. And I wish he had fist. Other than that, pretty awesome figure. I want to thank you guys for sitting through this very, very intricate review. I hope I answered all the questions that you may have had about this figure. If not, please message me or comment down below and let me know. And as always, don't forget to comment, rate, and subscribe, and check out all my other videos. And thank you guys. Have a good one.